So we've been looking at an idea around the inner game of wealth. And what coincides with the month of October, and speaking of abundance, is we also do our fiscal fitness program for the following year. So every year, I know it's like coincidence, isn't it? It's amazing how that worked out. Because we have discovered as a community, it really helps in our planning to know what's happening. It took us a number of years to figure that out, but it's really been a wonderful thing to know what's happening so that we can plan and be good stewards of our collective good. So it gives us a chance to invite you to complete a card of intent for your giving for next year. It gives us a chance to highlight some of the members of our community, highlight what we're doing, what we're about. So it's a wonderful and good thing all the way around. Today I want to introduce you to someone most of you know, many of you know. If you've been around at all, you see what service looks like. This gentleman came into the community a number of years ago. I remember there was a whole buzz around him and another person you may know, Shane. I can't imagine that there was buzz around that, but there was. And because they came in, this was when we were homeless and meeting in pool halls. No, we were a little more established than that, but it was in that time when we were really envisioning what was next for us. Could we create a community, a building, all that. So it was in the pre-stage of what you see today. And so this gentleman stepped up and said, I happen to have some skills, and I have to tell you, I took credit for being the general contractor, but I was not. This gentleman was the general contractor in making this building look like what looked on the blueprint. He was just, I can't even tell you what a huge blessing was in that context. He stepped up to serve on our leadership council as our treasurer, so he oversees our monies. He was instrumental in creating the landscape design and making that whole thing happen. He just keeps showing up. He was what I refer to as our honeydew guy. If you have a honeydew, it's great to have. Everybody needs a honeydew. I'm glad to have one of my own. Haven't convinced him to come to my house, but still, I'll take it. I'll take what I can get. Anyways, he is a man that truly lives this teaching and speaks from the heart and is just a blessing to all of us. So please welcome my friend Conrad Kettler.
Wow, thank you, Marty. I sure appreciate that. I think of this community, and what brought me here, of course, was my lovely partner, Kelly, whom most of you know. But before we get into this, before I say a few words, Ernest Holmes kind of epitomizes what this poem turned into a song is all about. Raj, will you play that for just a few minutes, please?
An old man going alone highway came in the evening cold and gray to a chasm vast and deep and wide, through which was flowing a sullen tide.
Thank you. So I stand here grateful for those who've come before me, Ernest Holmes and the bridge that he built of understanding of a better way to live our lives, change our thinking, change our minds, and change our lives. And I am grateful for Reverend Marty and for all of those who started this thing well before I got here. Apparently it's been about 40 or 50 years around here. So I'm grateful to be at this part of things, in this stage in the game, as it were. And I know that in my life that, I know who I am inside is important, but it's what I do that defines me. And those who have come before me have defined themselves as bridge builders, and I wish to continue to serve in that capacity as I serve our community as treasurer and as I look at those who give service in this community of ours to help this place to be a place for people to come, to be authentic, to be themselves, and to just be happy. And I thank you for that.
Thank you, sir. You've just modeled what brevity looks like. Not that I'm going to follow your example, but just, now I at least have a concept of what that is. Nice to have a mental equivalent for that. It is really wonderful to... I'm often humbled by the experience of being the minister for this period of time in this community. And always mindful that there was many that went before that created this, and many that will come after, that we're part of a continuing idea unfolding. I was particularly struck this past week as I was fortunate enough to attend the Parliament of World Religions, as many of us were. Really a remarkable experience. How many of you were there at some point in time? Yeah, it was remarkable, wasn't it? And so for those of you not familiar, the Parliament of World Religions happens every number of years, about 5 for the last period of time. And it's a bringing together of people of all faiths. So there's about 10,000 people in Salt Lake celebrating the divine in their own unique way, in their own possibility. And it was just fabulous because, we had Tibetan monks and all kinds of people in turbans and all kinds of different outfits. And there's just this rich cultural diversity. It was like, and what I was struck by many things, but particularly what I was struck by was just this attitude of reverence and respect and acceptance for one another. And so the dialogue was all about, tell me more about who you are. Tell me more about what you believe. Tell me about your understanding of the divine. Now, there's very much an emphasis about bringing our faith into the world. I don't know if you've noticed, but the world is facing some challenges right now. So many global warming and social injustice and on and on and on. And so we as faith communities have a role to play in the world. So there was kind of some heaviness to the conversation. It wasn't like, hey, let's all sing Kumbaya. It's like, how do we deal with, as some of the indigenous people said, our mother has a fever. And how do we deal with that? How do we address some of these issues as a faith community? But I was so particularly struck by just the respect of everyone for everyone else in this atmosphere. And it was contrasted by go home and turn on the TV and watch people in the Middle East killing each other because they have differences of religions. And so you watch that and you say, well, what's the difference? Because we had Jews and we had Palestinians, we had Buddhists, we had everything. And to my knowledge, not one person attacked another, right? So what is the difference? And it all boils down to simply an attitude. It is simply an attitude that makes the difference. There's an attitude that we bring to life that makes all of the difference. You see, I was thinking about how our evolution of gay rights has moved forward and what's changed. There's not more gay people than there was before, but attitudes have changed. So now you can actually say it out loud and not get beat up, right? Things have, it's like reality is, and then we shift our attitude around it. So I was deeply touched. I mean, there was just so many amazing experiences of watching what a world that works for everyone looks like. Watching people be in reverence, watching people be in respect, and not having the need to have people be different. I didn't see any conversion going on, right? And I was impressed by how many of the New Thought community attended this event. And to watch my mentor, Michael Bernard Beckwith, in action and speaking and doing his thing. And I thought, well, of course it makes sense, because we are very much at the core of our teaching is all paths lead to the divine. So having a philosophy, a spiritual philosophy that allows us to understand universal principles, allows us to explore I often share with people that I sort of see myself as a Christian-oriented, another Christ follower with a Buddhist practice. You know? Makes sense to me. I don't see any conflict. I think Jesus and Buddha would have hung out together and had a great time, right? There's no need to fight here. And so, as I was thinking about this, of course, it's natural and wonderful and exciting that we'd have this large presence in the midst of this because it fits with who we are. We're not trying to figure out how to accept other people. We already do. We already think they're wonderful. We're celebrating. It's not about tolerance. It's about embracing. And so it was wonderful. And so it was wonderful last week to have so many of my colleagues and other practitioners and ministers and attendees of other spiritual communities around the country, and actually, in fact, around the world, be here. And what it reminded me of is that sometimes I forget how good life is. I don't know, you probably never do this, but I do. Sometimes I look at what's still not accomplished and allow that to be my focus. And so what this did for me, having these conversations with colleagues who were like, oh my God, you guys have it going on. Your building's beautiful. You've got a band. You've got these wonderful people. And your people are so gracious and kind and welcoming. He said, well, you try and be their minister and see how... No, I did not say that. I promise you I didn't say it. I said, I know. They're very gracious and kind and welcome. And we are. We have a wonderful community. You know, there's a buzz here. And so for me personally, it was just a reaffirmation of who we are and who we're becoming as a spiritual community, of what's available for us. It also spoke to me of that there's more work for us to do. Not only just in terms of building this community, but really, how do we help to facilitate a world that works for all? So one of the things that can happen with our particular philosophy is that it's easy to spend an extraordinary amount of time contemplating our navel and very little time actually moving it into action, right? Holding the high vision for a world that works for all is wonderful. And then how do we actually make our world work for all? Where's my call to action? Because what I've realized is that attitude absolutely determines action. That whatever our attitude is, what follows from that is our action. So when you have an attitude of adversarial in the Middle East, then you want to kill each other. When you have an attitude of respect and honor, you have a parliament of religions that's just this love fest of diversity. It's just an attitude. And I got to thinking about how that influences our own lives. You see, we're in a period in our community as we're talking about really mastering the inner game of wealth. And I want you to understand, when I'm speaking of wealth, I'm talking about the full package. You see, some people define wealth as a certain amount of money, which is just such a limited way of looking at life, isn't it? Because for me to define what does it mean to be wealthy, what I know is that people that have a ton of money and their health doesn't work aren't enjoying life. And people that have health and their relationships don't work aren't enjoying life. And people that have relationships that work but have no money aren't enjoying the fullness of life, right? It's the whole package. And there's more. I don't want to limit it. It's just those three, but those are, in ministry of prayer terms, the big three. That's what people pray about. So it's really about achieving wealth is about living in a flow of life that allows our lives to be rich and full and unfolding and empowering and abundant in every manner. So certainly money is a piece of it, but we're working to disengage the idea that money is prosperity. Money is a result of prosperity often. But not always. Sometimes our prosperity comes to us in ways that can't be managed or seen in a financial term. Our greater good can come to us in any manner of ways. So I've been looking at this idea of what does it take to have our lives work. Now, if you were here last week, both Dr. Lisa and Dr. Ken did a magnificent job about becoming an excellent giver. And I loved Dr. Ken's talk. If you did not hear it, I'm going to encourage you to go online or to get a CD because it should be must reading. In fact, I told him I'm going to market him to the world because everybody needs to hear this. And part of what he shared was him and his wife were struggling ministers. You know, that's the other category. Besides struggling artists, there's lots of struggling ministers. And because somehow we conceptualize that vow of poverty or whatever, I don't know what it is, why we do that, but sometimes we give and give and give and give and give to the project that we're serving. Some of you can relate to this, that we're giving and giving and giving, but not being in right alignment with how it works. And so he had a revelation. He read The Richest Man in Babylon, and he was like, I'm teaching this, I'm not practicing it. And so he went to his lovely wife, Deborah, who's beautiful, and another minister. She did the books, and he said, what was our bottom line this week? And she said it was $16.20. He said, good. Right? No, I forget. Anyways, he said, write me a check. Write me 2 checks for 10% of each of those because I'm going to start practicing tithing and I'm going to start practicing saving. So I think he rounded up and she wrote him a check for 2 checks for 17 cents. Changed his life. Now I want you to hear this. Changed his life. Not the 17 cents. But moving into action that corresponded with a way of thinking is the thing that changed that ministry, their life, and everything else. You see, sometimes we want to give and give and give and give. But I want to suggest to you today, we want to look at developing our capacity to receive. Some of you are excellent givers. I watch you. And you're not so excellent when it comes to receiving. So hear me when I'm talking about receiving is not about being greedy. That is one of the misconceptions you may have developed along the way. But being able to graciously and unconditionally receive of the bounty of this universe. Jesus said it to us when he said, it is the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. I will translate. It is the universe's joy to fulfill itself through you. So if it's already freely given and we're not experiencing it, the problem is not in the giver. It is sometimes in the receiver. That somehow we have developed some silly idea about ourselves, about the nature of things, about if I take too much, whatever. We all have our story. I have a really good one. I used to have a really good one. I'm in the process of healing because I've got God on my side. You know, if you want to bring out stories, it's really, I'm working for the Lord. Thank you, right? That's lovely, isn't it? Aww, come on, let's have a moment. Aww, he's just so spiritual. Spiritual, I think they say it in parts of Utah, right? Right? But what I realized is I would say things like, well, I'm just not motivated by money. Money just doesn't matter that much to me. So then I looked at how do I manage money? And it looks like it doesn't matter that much to me. Odd. How did that happen? Right? So, as I've said before, if we're going to live in this world, if we're going to play the United States of America in 2015, money is a piece of it. It's not it, but it is a piece of it. So I've been having revelations about, wow, you might want to stop saying stuff like that. Unless you want to keep expanding your experience of it, right? So I was reading again this T. Harv Eker book, The Secrets of a Millionaire Mind. And he's saying the habit of managing money is more important than the amount. As Dr. Ken said, he changed a habit when he said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to tithe. I'm going to save. And it changed everything. It was not the 16.2 cents that changed his life. It was the decision. It was the attitude. And it was the habit that formulated itself around that. Ecker says that if your motivation for acquiring money or success comes from a non-supportive root as such as fear, anger, or the need to prove yourself, your money will never bring you happiness. You see, if our management is fear-based, you'll never get something that doesn't look like fear. When we give our offering every Sunday, what's the first word I say? Joyously. Why? Because I want you to give with joy so that joy might return back to you in your life. Now, I could say dutifully. Obligatorily. I don't know what that word is exactly. Obligatory. That's the word. I knew there was a word. You see, because when we understand that there is a principle, and the principle is until you show that you can handle what you've got, you don't get more. I'm just going to bust every myth you have in your mind, right? Because here's what we do. We think if I only had more, then I could really make that work. But I don't have enough. So I'm not going to keep doing what I'm doing and keep getting the results I'm getting, right? But you see, he's saying until you show that you can handle what you've got, you won't get any more. Billie Holiday in her beautiful song said, them that got shall get, them that not shall lose. For the Bible says, and it still is news. No, I'm not going to go there. I might. One of these days I might. But right? Because it's a concept. The Bible teaches us that God gave to those who had and took away from those who didn't. You're thinking, that's not fair. And it's like, it's absolutely fair because that's how the universe works. If we have a mentality of lack, then there's no place for it to go. But if we have a mentality and an attitude of abundance and overflow, then it can't help but come to us. You see, I've used this analogy so many times, but to me, if we understand life, there's a river called life. And the river called life just flows and flows and flows in an eternal stream and cycle, and it's beautiful. And then we go to the river of life, and we take our thimble, and we dip out of the river of life and we go, is that it? Is that all I get? You see, because thimble people want to say that there's something wrong with the river. Or whoever gave them the thimble. Right? People that live an abundant life just going, well, I could take a bucket. It's fun to be served in buckets of food by the Sikhs this last week, wasn't it? Was that an amazing experience? Yeah. For those of you who don't know, the Sikhs' mission is to make sure everyone's fed. And so they served thousands and thousands of people at this World Parliament of Religion. Ask everybody to take off their shoes, ask everybody to put something over their head to participate. You come and you sit on the floor and they go through with their buckets of delicious food. I mean, it was amazing. But the service, the generosity of spirit that came with it was a remarkable experience. Just remarkable. That's an attitude. They weren't saying, well, there's only so much food, so, how can we make sure we get ours? They said, there's enough. Let us serve. Let us give. Let us share. Let us be of service to our fellow humans. That probably was the most life-changing experience for me of the whole experience. Wasn't it? It's just remarkable. And that's their mission. No one should go hungry. So they do this. They serve thousands, maybe millions of people every day. It's remarkable. You see, that is an abundance thinking that understands that there's always enough, that they've gone to the river of life with a large container, and they share of their good. here's what I think we need to understand, is that if we are going to be good at this thing called life, we not only have to develop our capacity to give, but many of us need to learn how to receive unconditionally. You say, no problem, Marty, I've got this. And I say unto you, I've talked to you. No, you don't. Wow, you look amazing today. Oh, me. Here, let me give you this gift. Right? Somebody wants to buy your lunch, and you fight them to the ground to get the ticket out of their hand. Last week we had the food truck here, and so I said, let me buy you lunch, to a certain person who I won't point at right now. I don't know who I'm talking to, and she said, I could just watch the wheels in her mind, like, I want to say no, everything in me wants to say no, but I know I've heard him say this before. Okay. So congratulations. That experience changed your life. Right? Right? I mean, it's just that simple. We just go to life and we go, oh no, not me. No, thanks. I'm fine. I'm good. I'm great. Right? Now, you just went to your practitioner and said, I want greater good. I want to expand my capacity for life. And can I buy you lunch? No. Is it just me? Right? So this capacity to just receive of the bounty of life, to allow people to love us, to support us, to nurture us, to care for us. The most giving people in the world. I watch this Compassionate Heart Ministries, which is something we're launching, of a group of people that just want to be of service if you're in the hospital or if you've got something going on, all that sort of thing. They're great at this. I'm just waiting for one of them to get sick. Why didn't you tell us? Well, I didn't want to. So let's just accept as a basic premise that all of us can probably expand our capacity to receive. If Jesus is teaching us, if the masters are teaching us that life is fully given to us, let us be gracious receivers. Let us allow ourselves to accept and to say thank you. Did you know that thank you can be a complete sentence? It's amazing. Thank you. Right? You see, there's attitudes that goes with everything. And so as we're beginning to shift our attitude, then our behavior, our action moves into a new state of being. Money is just a result. Your weight is just a result. Your love life is just a result. Your relationships are a result of your relationship with life. And what people who know is that changing results doesn't change cause. It is cause that changes results. It is cause to effect. And the good news, my friends, is that each of us are creative beings within a divine intelligence, that changing our own inner construct, our own belief system, our own way of approaching life, our own attitude, then leads to new behaviors and new actions that allows us to experience the greater good. Affirmation, I release any resistance to my greater good. There's no resistance to your greater good on the part of the universe. It's really willing to look at that. Do I believe I'm enough? Do I believe I'm worthy? Am I willing to accept my greater good? Now, I think we're moving into a new time. I think we're moving into a new experience of reality. I was struck by so many speakers, but Michael Bernard Beckwith gave a talk that was so impactful for me, and he talked about this idea. I think it's very relevant for us. Some people operate out of a mentality that says more is more. And I don't know that that's where we are, but I think it's really about balancing. So we look, when people talk about the bottom line, they're talking about the profit of an organization. That's why I've always encouraged our organization to not call ourselves a nonprofit organization, but rather a not-for-profit. We don't do what we do for profit. However, if the income does not exceed the outgo, we have a problem, just like every other organization in the world. But he said, we really need to expand our understanding of what the bottom line is. And he said, rather than 1P, profit, we need 4 Ps. He said, first, we need the P of purpose. Is this fulfilling divine purpose? Is this endeavor worthy of our activity? He said the second is people. Does this serve people? Does it improve their lives, uplift their lives, make their lives better? Third, does it serve the planet? We're becoming profoundly aware that Mother indeed does have a fever, that we are a part of a salvation or a destruction. So does it serve the planet? And lastly, does it make a profit? Because profit is important. I can tell you, having run not-for-profits for many years, if it doesn't have a profit, it doesn't work. Hate to tell you, but it's true. We don't get to be here. So it's that combination, and I thought about that. That's really a testimony for all of our lives, not only our business, but is what I'm doing worthy of my higher purpose? Is the way I'm showing up in the world serving others? Is the way I'm showing up serving our planet? And yes, am I generating a profit so that I can continue to move forward in ways of joy and fulfillment? So, my friends, we have great work to do, collectively and individually. It's exciting to be a part of a dynamic community. It's exciting to know that we're just scratching the surface of what's possible for us individually and collectively. It's exciting to watch how a mindset can shift the world. And the thing that I keep discovering is my mindset, that's where I start. Doing my own inner work, and then allowing my healed and improved attitude to move into action for healed and improved action in the world. Right? It's good. So wherever you are on this journey, I want to invite you to expand your capacity not only to give, but also to receive. This week, your assignment is to say yes to everything given to you that you want. If somebody slaps you, you don't have to accept that. But, otherwise, every good thing that comes into your life, just give it an unconditional yes. You willing? Yes. All right. Let's start with prayer. Yes. Okay. It's going to be a long week. So as we simply turn inward, as we honor and celebrate this divine life, everywhere present, always available, the one infinite power, how good it is to watch and to observe how many ways we celebrate the divine as humanity. But we know there is a universal intelligence at work that is pouring itself into existence and into expression. We're simply sensing and feeling and knowing this divine life is everywhere present, and it is present within us. That indeed we live, move, and have our being in the presence of the divine. So therefore, I know there can be no separation between the cause and its effect, between life and its unfolding. So we open our hearts in this moment to experience a greater capacity of love. We open our minds to experience a greater capacity of wisdom. We're simply knowing with absolute conviction and confidence that we live and move and have our being in the one life. Therefore, we speak the word of truth as we call forth wholeness, allowing that wholeness to reveal itself as health, as well-being, as vitality. We call forth the presence of unconditional love, knowing that it is this presence that heals and transforms our very being. We fully forgive. We allow ourselves to be forgiven. We participate joyously and fully in the flow of life. We allow our lives to be a testament to the abundant nature of the divine. We expand our capacity to receive, to give, to participate joyously in this divine flow. We're saying yes to life in a very powerful way. We're allowing those old paradigms which no longer serve us to dissolve away, to be released. And in their place, we set a new blueprint of possibility, of expansion, of joy and fulfillment. How good it is to bear witness to this truth. And so we give thanks for the many blessings of our lives. We give thanks for the blessing of this spiritual community, this divine idea which continues to unfold in new and powerful and transformative ways. We bless all those who have served us this day. We extend our blessing to our brothers and sisters around the planet. We are reminded that there is only one race, and that is the human race. And so we honor and celebrate our brothers and sisters of all walks of life. We're holding a vision for a planet at peace, for a world that works for all. We're allowing our action and our activity to be reflective of our highest nature. As is our custom and our tradition, we bless all priests, all rabbis, all ministers, all teachers of all faiths. For we know there are many pathways to the divine, and so we choose to honor and celebrate them all. How good it is to know this truth. And as I speak this truth into the law of mind, I know that it is already complete. It is already done. And so I am grateful beyond measure. With a joyful and grateful heart, then I simply release this word, knowing that it is so, as together we say, and so it is.